Hey folks, I'm doing this type of review a little bit differently because it takes up way too much memory on my phone to go back in iMovie and splice before and after clips. So I have just watched the movie we're going to talk about, which is Alfred Hitchcock's Torn Curtain on MCA Universal video cassette. This is an ex-Hollywood video rental copy that I picked up last week. And I'm pretty sure the shelf this was on faced a window because the box is very faded on the front. The back's got a lot more richer hue of magenta. This movie came out in 1966, and it has a 6 out of 10 IMDb and a 65% Rotten Tomato score. 80% of Google users liked the movie, and we're going to review it on the 1 to 5 scale, just like we always do. So, again, this is a Hitchcock movie. I love Alfred Hitchcock. I got somebody in the background. Get out! I'm making a movie! Or video. Anyway, so this movie came out in 1966. The movie prior to this, that was like his big hit, was Psycho, which came out in 1960, and I'm pretty sure there was a few movies in between. This was his 50th motion picture. Hitchcock was very prolific. I think my favorite Hitchcock movie has to be North by Northwest. It's probably one of the first DVDs that I ever bought with my own money as a teen, 1959, and the soundtrack in that is amazing. The acting, it's like the color, everything in about that time period of movies. So this movie has a lot of that classic Hitchcock style, really cool shots, close-up shots, tracking shots. He's a great director. I was reading a little bit about the film. It comes in at 128 minutes. And he wanted the stars of North by Northwest, Eva Marie Saint and Cary Grant, to be the leads in this movie. And the studio did not, well, Cary Grant was on the verge of retirement, so he didn't really want to do it. And then I don't know what happened to Eva Marie Saint. But the studio control over the film was very strong, and they wanted Paul Newman and Julie Roberts. Or Julie Andrews, I'm sorry. And they were like big actors. I mean, I think the year before this, she had done Mary Poppins, and she was just a big A-list star at the time. And then I kind of went down a rabbit hole reading about how Paul Newman's method acting, Hitchcock and him didn't really get along. He was used to working with more of the golden age era of actors where they just did what you wanted to do, versus Newman had a very different acting style. So there was like headbutting. A big chunk of the budget went to pay the actors. I felt like I'm watching Maria from The Sound of Music. I can't say her performance was amazing, but it was a good movie. I enjoyed the movie, but maybe because I read about it before I watched it, it kind of tainted my view of their portrayal, because if that wasn't Hitchcock's choice for the actors. And I just kept thinking, I'm watching her in Sound of Music. I felt like the performances were very similar. She is a very attractive woman. So is Eva Marie Saint. And Paul Newman, what a stud. And I love him in other movies. He was just very stoic throughout this movie. And I had never even heard of this movie. But I love spy genre, specifically like Cold War type of films where you have to like escape from the Soviet Union. I kept thinking of that Clint Eastwood movie from 1982, Firefox, where he kind of has to go into the Soviet Union and do something and then try and get back out. Kind of reminded me of that. Or the more recent Charlize Theron, Atomic Blonde, if you kind of like that. Or even as funny as the Robin Williams movie, Moscow on the Hudson. That kind of movie where it's dealing with this forbidden place where you're trying to get out of and come to the land of the free. So that's Torn Curtain. It's kind of about this physicist who's trying to get some nuclear secrets and smuggle them back to the US, but it's kind of like got this element of the spy genre. Kind of another thing that I was reading is like the whole 007 films were in their heyday with Sean Connery at the time, so it was kind of piggybacking on that. The movie was incredibly rushed because of Julie Andrews had a very limited time to shoot, and Hitchcock didn't want to give his screenplay to film for real in East Germany, so they just had to make do with other European areas that kind of had a similar vibe on the other side of the Iron Curtain. It's just interesting to think, like, we're obviously very divided as a society today in a lot of ways, but it's like tangible, the element of fear and terror, and there's some poignant scenes in there of people that want to get out of the communist regime and come to the West. And it's a good movie. I don't know why it got as low as 65% or 6 out of 10. I feel like the Google users are more accurate in how they felt about it, 80%. I had a high view of the film as well. I kind of started off being tainted because I was kind of like, oh man, like, it wasn't the director's vision with who he wanted, but that happens all the time. So like, when you get into the story, I feel like they were really good at casting a lot of the other characters. And I keep thinking about North by Northwest. They were really good at having these very villainous type of devious guys, and the East German secret police type of guys, KGB type of guys, and they were very intense. Even the people that were acting for them, I feel like they were very well cast, and it was really good at building suspense, and the soundtrack was good. I would like to watch it on a more remastered digital copy. This, not to say that VHS is terrible if you watch it on a CRT television, and but you know, it just felt kind of washed out, and some of the colors were just not really sharp, and it just doesn't really capture a motion picture quality like a digital copy would. But we're working with found items in the thrift shop here. That's kind of the whole basis. I just stumble upon things and then we review it here. I don't know why they said this was rated R. There wasn't even one bit of profanity in this movie. There was one scene where it's kind of violent, but it's so tame by any modern standards. I feel like if this was a modern movie, it would have been like PG. But who knows what they did for rating. And this copy is a 1983 copy of the movie. So that might have something to do with the clarity of it. But it was still good. I am going to give this movie a 5 out of 5. I didn't start off feeling that way. I was kind of like, eh. I stopped the tape, came back to it a day later, and then I sat through it and I got into it and I loved it. Is it my favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie? No. Like I mentioned, I love North by Northwest. To me, that's one of those iconic movies, or even like Rope or Rear Window are up there with some of my favorite Hitchcock movies. But if you're kind of into the Cold War spy genre and you haven't seen this movie, I do recommend it. 2 hours and 5 minutes runtime, but it was super enjoyable. I'm not going to give any spoilers. It's just, check it out. Comment down below and let me know what you think. Until next time, we'll see you then.